Good morning, students. Today I will take the topic of astigmatism. And uh, in the previous classes, I taught you about the myopia and hypermetropia. So, what is myopia? It's the parallel rays which are coming from the infinity will focus in front of the retina, whereas in hypermetropia, the parallel rays which are coming from the infinity will focus behind the retina. So, in both myopia and hypermetropia, the refraction in different meridians is equal. Whereas in case of astigmatism, the refraction varies in different meridian. Basically, there are two principal meridians are there, vertical meridian and horizontal meridian. In case of hypermetropia and myopia, the refraction is same in both the meridians. Whereas in case of astigmatism, the refraction varies in different meridians. So the rays which are coming from the infinity will not converge or diverge to point focus. So they will not form focal point, but they form focal lines. Because of that, as the refraction varies in different meridians, instead of forming the focal point, they form focal lines. This you have to remember. They do not form a focal point, but they form focal lines because of the as the refraction varies in different meridian. That we call it as a astigmatism. So remember these focal lines. So what is the etiology of the astigmatism? It may be three reasons are there based on corneal pathology, based on lenticular pathology, and based on retinal pathology. Coming to the cornea, because of the unequal curvature of the cornea in different meridians. So in case of myopia and hypermetropia, there is increase in the curvature in case of myopia and decrease in the curvature in case of hypermetropia. But in case of astigmatism, it is because of the unequal curvature of the cornea and different meridians. So one meridian has different curvature when compared to the other meridian. So because of the unequal curvature of the cornea, the astigmatism occurs. And second reason is because of the unequal curvature of the lens. And same reason, this is the same reason, and because of the decentering or tilting of the lens. Because of the decentration of the lens, because of the weak zonules are due to tilting of the lens, it is also one of the cause for astigmatism. And because of the presence of variable refractive index of the lens, so different parts of the lens has different refractive index, and that leads to astigmatism. So, and retinal causes are because of the oblique placement of the macula. Because of the oblique placement of the macula, there is a chance of astigmatism in the patients. So these are the three different reasons for astigmatism: corneal causes, lenticular causes, and retinal causes. So this is astigmatism. Cornea is the most common form of astigmatism. Corneal pathology is the where we see unequal curvature of the cornea, and lenticular causes are due to unequal curvatures due to abnormal position of the lens. That is because of the tilting or decentration, and due to variable refractive index in the lens. And retinal causes are due to oblique placement of the macula. So this is the etiology of the astigmatism. So coming to the types of astigmatism, there are two types: regular astigmatism and irregular astigmatism. What is regular astigmatism? Here, the refractive power in the two different meridians is varies, but the whatever the refractive power changes uniformly from one meridian to the another meridian. So the change is uniform in case of regular astigmatism, whereas in case of irregular astigmatism, because of the irregular change of refractive power in the different meridian, it leads to irregular astigmatism. Here, the refractive power changes irregularly in different meridian, whereas in case of regular astigmatism, the refractive power changes uniformly or regularly in different meridians. So this is about two types of astigmatism, that is regular astigmatism and irregular astigmatism. So in the regular astigmatism, there is a direction of greatest and least curvature are at right angles to each other. So what basically astigmatism is because of unequal curvature. But in case of regular astigmatism, whatever the direction of the greatest curvature or the least curvature are at right angles to each other. Whereas in case of irregular astigmatism, because the irregular astigmatism is because of the irregular surface of the cornea. It is seen in case of corneal ulcers and keratoconus, where we see abnormal shape of the cornea that leads to irregular astigmatism. Here, this is mainly seen in case of corneal ulcer and keratoconus. The corneal surface is irregular. So the regular astigmatism can be corrected by the lenses, whereas irregular astigmatism cannot be corrected by the lenses. So these are the differences of the regular astigmatism and irregular astigmatism. So basically, irregular astigmatism is seen in when the corneal surface is irregular. That is the best example is healing of the corneal ulcer or keratoconus patients. So this is a normal cornea, and in case of astigmatism, the different meridian has different unequal curvatures are seen. So this is the astigmatism cornea. So this is the difference between the normal cornea and astigmatic cornea. So coming to the types of regular astigmatism, the regular astigmatism has four types. In that, first one is with the rule astigmatism, second one is against the rule, third one is oblique astigmatism, bi-oblique astigmatism. What is with the rule astigmatism? Here the vertical meridian is more curved than horizontal meridian. Normally in the normal eyes also, vertical meridian is more curved when compared with the horizontal meridian. So that we call it as a with the rule astigmatism. But suppose if the horizontal meridian is more curved than the vertical meridian, that we call it as a against the rule astigmatism. So here the horizontal meridian is more curved when compared with the vertical meridian. So what is the oblique meridian? Here the both principal meridians are not vertical. That is, the both principal meridians are not vertical. That is, they are not horizontal or vertical. But though they are not vertical, but they are at right angles to each other. So suppose if one meridian is at 45 degrees, another meridian is at 135 degrees. The difference between the angle between the two meridians is 90 degrees. So in case of oblique astigmatism, the principal meridians are not vertical, but they are in oblique positions, but they are angled at the right angle at 90 degrees. So this is called oblique astigmatism. The two meridians are not vertical, but they are angled at 90 degrees. So coming to the last type, that is bi-oblique. Here the two principal meridians are not aligned at right angles to each other. These in bi-oblique, the two meridians are not vertical and they are not at right angle to each other. Suppose if the one angle is at 30 degrees and other meridian will be at 100 degrees. The difference is 70 degrees. So they are not at the right angle. So these are the different types of regular astigmatism. Coming to the clinical types, there are three clinical types are there. That is, first one is simple astigmatism. Second one is simple type. Second one is compound type, and third one is mixed type. In simple type, this is the with the rule and against the rule. Here in the with the rule, this is the cornea. The vertical meridian is more curved when compared with the horizontal meridian. In against the rule, the horizontal meridian this is the horizontal meridian, this is cornea, is more curved when compared to the vertical meridian. So this is about the two types of regular astigmatism, with the rule and against the rule. Coming to the clinical types, I already said there are three types, that is simple astigmatism, compound astigmatism, and mixed astigmatism. In the simple astigmatism, simple hyperopic astigmatism, simple myopic astigmatism, and compound astigmatism, compound hyperopic astigmatism, compound myopic astigmatism. Mixed type, I will tell you about the mixed type. Here, if you see this picture, here in the one meridian, the rays are focusing on the retina, and you observe the green part. And in another meridian, it is focusing beyond the retina. So here there is unequal curvature at the one meridian only. That we call it as a simple hyperopic astigmatism. If you observe this, the green color is focusing in front of the retina, and the red color is focusing on the retina. So this is because of unequal curvature, the rays are focusing in front of the cornea. That we call it as a simple myopic astigmatism. We call it as a compound hyperopia or hyperopic astigmatism. If it is the both meridian, the rays are focusing beyond the retina. That we call it as a compound hypermetropia. Here, in the same way, they both meridians, they are focused in front of the retina. That we call it as a compound myopia. So we call it as a mixed astigmatism. If one rays are converging, one rays are focused in front of the retina, and other rays are focused behind the retina. So here, for example, the patient will have this type of power. For example, this is the myopic mixed astigmatism. The patient may have -2 diopters, for example, -2 diopters of spherical power and +3 diopters at 180 axis at the other meridian. So this is mixed. So both the plus and minus readings are seen in case of mixed astigmatism. So that is because there is one rays which are focusing in front of the retina and other rays which are focusing behind the retina. So both plus and minus powers are seen in case of mixed astigmatism. So these are three types of astigmatism, that is simple, compound, and mixed. In the simple, if it is simple, only one sign is seen, that is plus or minus. In compound also, only one sign is seen, but In case of mixed astigmatism, the patient will have both the plus lens and the minus lenses. So that is the difference between the mixed and the simple and compound astigmatism. So coming to the symptoms, what are the symptoms we see? We see because of the amniotical curvature, blurring vision is seen, and because of the uh, astigmatism, astenopic symptoms are also seen. What are astenopic symptoms? It includes frontal headache and the tiredness of eyes, watering, and rarely photophobia. These are the astenopic symptoms. It is also seen in case of astigmatic patients. So when people who are having astigmatism, will be when they see the objects, there will be most of the cases they will see the elongation of the objects proportionate to the degree and type of the astigmatism. The patient may have elongation of the objects, and there is also tilting of head is seen, and rarely squinting is also seen. So because of the half closure of the eyelid, they may tilt the head to get the better quality of vision, and then rarely squinting is also seen. So these are the symptoms of astigmatism, that is blurring of vision, astenopic symptoms, elongation of objects, and tilting of head and squinting. So what are the signs? Because of the half closure of the lid, the patient, because in order to get the clarity of the better clarity of the vision, the patient usually half close their lids and they tilt their head, and then when we observe the fundus, we will see oval or tilted optic disc. In the fundus, we will see oval shaped or tilted optic discs. So these are the signs of astigmatism. So coming to the investigations, what we'll do first, we have to do retinoscopy. With the help of retinoscopy, we can this reveals the power in two different axes. So axis of the patient, refractive error of the patient can be assessed with the retinoscopy. In astigmatism, the axis power can be identified with the help of retinoscopy. Second one is keratometry. The keratometry reveals this is the instrument used to used to measure the corneal curvature. So this keratometry reveals the corneal curvature of the patient. And computerized corneal tomography. This is a software-based instrument which helps in completely. It completely scans the cornea and gives the complete details about the shape, curvature, thickness of the cornea. That the instrument which is used to measure the corneal thickness, shape, and curvature of the cornea. So that we call it as a computerized corneal tomography. And this astigmatic fan test and Jackson cross cylinder, these are used to refine the axis of the cylinder. These are the two tests which we conduct to refine the axis of the astigmatic error in the patient. So these are the various investigations we do in astigmatic patients. So correction is by glasses. What we prescribe? In case of myopia, we prescribe concave lenses. In case of hypermetropia, we prescribe convex lenses. But in case of astigmatism, we prescribe cylindrical lenses. So first option is glasses or contact lenses. Toric, soft or hard contact lenses are prescribed, and surgical options are PRK, LASIK, and epi-LASIK. So these are refractive surgeries we conduct in astigmatism. So spectacles, contact lenses, and refractive surgical correction. So what are the guidelines for optical treatment of astigmatic patient? So for suppose if the patient is having small error, that is having small astigmatic error, the treatment is only required when there is a presence of astenopic symptoms, or if there is a considerable decrease in the vision. So in these two conditions only we correct the patient if the patient is having small astigmatic refractive error. Or suppose if the patient is having high astigmatic refractive error, then the patient should be fully corrected, and so that and better to avoid new astigmatic error in adults because of intolerable distraction. The patient is having already astigmatic error. If there is a sudden change of astigmatic error to the higher level, then we should be cautious in not prescribing or that astigmatic error correction, so that if you prescribe the high power of astigmatic error, that may lead to intolerance to the patient. So it is better to avoid new astigmatic error in adults because of the intolerable distraction. And in case of bioblique, mixed and high astigmatism, they are better treated by the contact lenses. In cases of bioblique astigmatism or mixed type of astigmatism, or in case of high astigmatic refractive error, the patient feels more comfortable with the contact lenses when compared with the glasses. So these are the guidelines for optical treatment. Coming to the irregular astigmatism, it is mainly because of the unequal curvature of the cornea, entire cornea. It may be due to corneal scars, keratoconus, or flap-related complications after LASIK surgery, or maybe due to marginal degenerative changes in the cornea. So in these conditions, the corneal surface is irregular, and that leads to irregular astigmatism. And lenticular causes are because of the maturation of the cataract, is one of the cause for irregular astigmatism. And retinal causes are scarring in the macula and tumors of the retina and choroid. These pathologies leads to irregular retina, and that leads to irregular astigmatism. So these are the causes of irregular astigmatism. Cornea, mainly because of corneal scars, that is secondary, that occurs after healing of the corneal ulcers, keratoconus, flap-related complications, and corneal degenerative changes. And lenticular, it is due to maturation of the cataract, that is mature cataracts. And in retina, it is because of the scarring of the macula, tumors of the retina and choroid. So these are the various causes of irregular astigmatism. So basically, astigmatism is two types: regular and irregular. These are the causes for irregular astigmatism. So coming to the symptoms of irregular astigmatism, the patient will have defective vision, and there is a distortion of the objects it's seen, and the patient may also see multiple images, that we call it as a polyopia. So what are the investigations we do in irregular astigmatism? This is the first one is plastodisc test. This reveals the distorted sight circles. This is the plastodisc, which consists of concentric rings. These rings are focused onto the cornea. If there is any irregular astigmatism or any astigmatism, there is a abnormal rings are observed. This is the normal aspheric cornea with minimal astigmatism. So if there is a patient is not having any astigmatism, the rings are concentric. If there is any abnormality like astigmatism, there will be distortion of shape of the concentric rings. This is the shape of the plastodisc rings in case of keratoconus, and this is the shape in case of astigmatism. So this is the normal shape. So one test is plastodisc test. Another test is computerized corneal tomography. This is a software-based instrument. With this, computer is used, and there is a software which helps in identifying the complete details of the corneal shape, thickness, and curvature of the cornea. So this is the latest advancement in ophthalmology, that is computerized corneal tomography. So with this, you can know the complete details about the corneal structure, shape, and curvatures. So these are the investigations we do in irregular astigmatism. So coming to the treatment of irregular astigmatism, we prescribe only contact lenses, but the prognosis is bad, and surgical treatment is only penetrating keratoplasty, that we remove the whole of the cornea and we replace with the donor cornea. So surgical option is penetrating keratoplasty in case of irregular astigmatism. Coming to the contact lenses, we prescribe toric contact lenses in astigmatism. It may be soft lenses or rigid gas permeable lenses. The advantage of rigid gas permeable lenses is they do not conform to the asymmetry of the corneal surface. As they are rigid in nature, they do not conform to the asymmetry of the corneal surface, but replaces it totally and provides clarity of vision, and they are, when compared to the soft lenses, they are more beautiful. And second type of lens is soft lenses. The soft lenses are more comfortable to wear and easy to fit, and adhere more tightly to the cornea when compared to the rigid glass permeable lens. This is the advantage of soft lenses. Compared to the rigid lenses, these are very much comfortable to wear and easy to fit, and adhere more tightly to the cornea. So this is about contact lenses used in irregular astigmatism. And coming to refractive surgeries in the astigmatism, other LASIK surgery already discussed. Relaxing incisions with compression sutures are given, and photoastigmatic refractive keratectomy is one of the options, and astigmatic keratotomy is also one of the options. So these are the various surgeries we perform in astigmatic refractive error. So coming to the Stump's conoid. What is Stump's conoid? For suppose if there is a toric surface. What is toric surface? In this, toric surface is nothing but in the surface which is having one principal meridian is more curved than the second principal meridian. So nothing but it is a astigmatic surface. So here one principal is more curved when compared with the second principal meridian. So if Stump's conoid is found when there is a geometric, when the light rays emanating from the single point source are refracted by spherocylinder lens or toric surface. So Stump's conoid is nothing but the geometric configuration of light rays. This is the Stump's conoid. Geometrical configuration of light rays emanating from the single point source that is refracted by toric surface. Toric surface is nothing but the spherocylindrical lens. This is the lens. This is the lens that we call it as a toric surface or spherocylindrical lens. When the light rays which are coming from the point source are emitting, are refracted by this lens. The light rays are refracted by this lens. Whatever the structure we get, or whatever the geometrical configuration we get, that we call it as a Stump's conoid. So this is the Stump's conoid, where the light rays from a point source are refracted by the lens. That lens is, we call it as a toric surface or spherocylindrical lens. So what are the geometrical configuration we get? When the light refracted through this lens, we call it as a Stump's conoid. This light forms different shapes of bundles, the shape of bundle of rays at different levels in the Stump's conoid. So different shapes of bundle of rays are formed at different levels in the Stump's conoid. So this is the Stump's conoid, where this is the toric surface. That is a spherocylindrical lens. It has vertical meridian, horizontal meridian. The rays are coming from the infinity. So the rays are coming from the point source are refracted through this lens, and these rays forms different shapes of bundles at different levels. So for suppose at the point A, this is the horizontal meridian and this is the vertical meridian. This vertical lines is there, no? These are the vertical meridian, and this horizontal part is there, no? That is the horizontal meridian. Here, observe at this point, that is point A, there is a convergence of the vertical meridian. We see the convergence of the both vertical and horizontal meridian. But when we compare with the vertical meridian, when we compare with horizontal meridian, the convergence of the vertical meridian is more. So here we form a shape called horizontal oval shape. So this is Stump's conoid. Here at the point A, the vertical rays are more converging than horizontal rays, and the bundle of rays forms the horizontal oval. So here we get a horizontal oval shape of bundle of rays. So it is because of the convergence of the vertical rays when compared with the horizontal rays. So at the point A, we get a horizontal oval shape. So we observe here at the point B, the vertical rays are focused. We observe the vertical rays are focused at the point B. So here we get a focal line. So at B, the vertical rays are focused, then horizontal rays are still converging. If you observe here, there is a horizontal at point B, the horizontal rays are still converging, but whereas the vertical rays are focused and form the focal line. That is the first focal line at the B point. So that is about point B. This is the focal line. So when we observe at point C, so at point C, what happens? The vertical rays are diverging, but less than convergence of the horizontal. At point C, if you observe, the horizontal rays are still converging, and the vertical rays started diverging. So this is a diverging. So started from here, they are converged and form a focal line, and the vertical rays are starting to diverge. But whereas the horizontal rays are still converging. So when we compare the convergence of the horizontal meridian with the divergence of the vertical meridian, the convergence of the horizontal meridian is more when compared with the divergence of the vertical meridian. So they form a horizontal oval shape of rays of bundle. So this is at the point C. So at point D, the convergence of the horizontal rays is equals with the divergence of the vertical rays. So at point D, what happens? The divergence of the vertical rays is equals with the convergence of the horizontal ray, and they form a circle shape that we call it as a circle of least diffusion. Here, if you see, circle is formed, that we call it as a circle of least diffusion. As the convergence is equals with the divergence of the horizontal meridian is equals with the divergence of the vertical meridian, we get a circle of least diffusion, that is a circle shape is formed. So at point D, the circle is formed. So when you observe at the point T, we see divergence of the vertical meridian and convergence of the horizontal meridian. Here the convergence of the horizontal meridian is more, the divergence of the vertical meridian is more when compared with the convergence of the horizontal meridian. So at point T, the divergence of vertical meridian is more when compared with the convergence of the horizontal meridian. We get a vertically oval shape rays of light rays, that we get a vertically oval shaped bundle of rays at the point E. So when you observe at the point F, the horizontal rays gets focused. You see, we don't see any horizontal rays here. So the horizontal rays get focused, and they form the second focal line. This is the second focal line. First focal line is formed at the B point, and second focal line is formed at the point F. So basically, if there is a astigmatic error, they don't form a focal point, but they form a focal lines. So two different focal lines are formed at the vertical meridian and horizontal meridian. So that so whatever the distance between two focal lines, we call it as a focal interval of Stern. So this interval, this distance between the first focal line and second focal line, we call it as a focal interval of Stern. So that is our focal interval of Stern. Coming to the circle of least diffusion, it is at the point. Circle of least diffusion is formed at the dioptric mean of focal lines. The cross section of the Sturm's cone appears as a circular patch of light rays. That is that we got the best overall focus. It is because the divergence of the vertical rays is equals with the convergence of the horizontal line at the circle of least diffusion. It is the dioptric mean of focal lines where we get a best focus of overall light rays. So here we get a best focus, that we call it as a circle of least diffusion, because the horizontal meridian, the divergence of the vertical meridian is equals to the convergence of the horizontal meridian at the point D, that we call it as a circle of least diffusion. So the best overall focus is seen at the circle of least diffusion. So this is about Sturm's conoid. This may be given as a 4 marks or 2 marks question. Sturm's conoid is an important question. So if you get a question, you have to describe about the various shapes at different levels of the Sturm's conoid, and you have to tell about the toric surface, what is toric surface, and various shapes at different levels of Sturm's conoid. And you have to write the diagram, you have to sketch the diagram also. So this is the retinoscopy part I already covered in the last class. Coming to the last topic, that is prisms. So yeah, I already discussed about various lenses, that is convex lens, concave lenses, convex lenses, cylindrical lenses. Now coming to the last type of lens, that is prisms. Here the prism is defined as a portion of refractive medium bordered by two plane surfaces which are inclined at a finite angle. So this is the prism. So these are the two prisms. They contain, is nothing but the refractive medium bordered by two plane surfaces. It is nothing but it is a refractive medium which contain two plane refractive surfaces. Here if you observe, this is the one plane refractive surface and this is the other plane refractive surface. And these two surfaces are inclined at an angle. Here this is the angle. There is an angle in between the two plane refractive surfaces. That the angle we call it as a finite angle. So if this is the one plane surface and this is the other plane surface, there is an angle between the two surfaces that we call it as a finite angle. So the angle between the two surfaces is also called as refractive angle or apical angle of the prism. So we also call it as a refracting angle or apical angle. So this is a prism. So if a line is bisected, the angle that we call it as a axis of the prism. If we draw a line bisecting the angle, that we call it as a axis of the prism. The opposite surface is called the base of the prism. So this the surface which is opposite to the angle, we call it as a base. So this is the base, and the line which is bisecting the angle, we call it as a axis. So this is about the prism. So when prescribing prism, the orientation is indicated by the position of the base. So when we prescribe the prisms to the patient, the orientation is based on position of the base. So for suppose if the base is present in medially, that we call it as base in. If the base is present up, that we call it as base up. If base is present down, that we call it as base down. And the base is present more outer laterally, that we call it the base out position. So when prescribing, the orientation is indicated by the position of the base. So this is the base down, base up, base out, and this is the base out position. So this is coming to a prism consists of two angle refractive surfaces. Already discussed, it has two plane surfaces which are inclined at the angle, that angle we call it as a refracting angle or apical angle. Suppose if the simplest form of prism is two flat surfaces that comes together at an angle at the top, that point we call it as the apex of the prism, and the wider bottom of the prism is called the base. So this is the apex and this is the base. The two plane surfaces which are inclined at an angle, and this forms the apex of the prism, and the broader surface which is present in the bottom, that we call it the base. This is the ophthalmic prism. So what happens when the light refracted through the prism? The rays are deviated towards the base of the prism, and this causes the object to be displaced away from the base of the prism towards the apex. So here, this is the light rays which are coming from the point source. These whatever the rays which are refracted through the prism, they deviate towards the base of the prism. So if you observe, these rays are deviated towards the base of the prism, and the object is formed towards the apex. In this diagram, you can observe clearly. This is the point source where the light is coming, and these light rays are refracted through the base of the prism, but the image is formed near the apex. So this is the prism where the point source of light, where the rays are refracted in the prism. The rays will refract towards the base of the prism, and the object is formed towards the apex of the O is the object, and the object is formed towards the apex of the prism. So the net change in the direction of the rays, that we call it as angle D, is called angle of deviation. So this net change, we call it as a angle of deviation. So as they reflect this net change, this is the angle we call it as angle of deviation. So what are the characteristics of prism? A prism has thickest edge, the base, and the thinnest edge, the apex. Prism displaces the incident rays towards the base of the prism. So whatever the rays which are reflected to the prism are displaced towards the base of the prism, and the prism displaces the image towards the apex of the prism, and the image is displaced towards the apex, and light rays are displaced towards the base of the prism. What are the uses of prisms in ophthalmology? There are two uses: are there diagnostic uses and therapeutic uses. In the diagnostic uses, first one is they help in objective measurement of angle of deviation. They help prism cover test. And second one is they also help in subjective measurement of angle of deviation, and it also helps in diagnosing the malingering in the patients, and to assess the likelihood of diplopia after proposed skin surgery. So these are the various uses of prisms in ophthalmology. Coming to the therapeutic uses, they help in relieving the diplopia in patients of paralytic skin, and they also help in building up the fusional result. Fusional result is nothing but the increasing the convergence ability of the eye. They help in building up the fusional result, that is the convergence ability of the eye in patients with the convergence insufficiency. And base-out prisms are prescribed in case of esodiation. If the patient is having esotropia, then the base-out prisms are used. And in case of exodeviation, that is the exotropia, the base-in prisms are used. So the apex is towards the fovea. You see, the base is opposite to the deviation, and the apex is parallel to the deviation. So apex is towards the fovea. So these are the various therapeutic and diagnostic uses of prisms. So with this, the important topics in the refractive errors are covered. Next class will be on the topic ocular injuries. If you have any doubts in this topic, in the refractive errors, you can ask me. And regarding exams, the exam will be on 24th September, and the pattern will be of normal pattern only, not like MCQs. Normal will give one essay question, five 4 marks questions, and 5 very short answer questions. So it is same like your normal regular exam pattern only. It is not like objective type of examination. 99% it will be on 24th of this month. And topics will be whatever the topics which we covered after first internal, that is after glaucoma. Whatever the topics we covered after first internal will be given in this exam. So until we up to 20th of the September, whatever the topics we cover, that will be included. So that includes next topic also, ocular injuries and community ophthalmology also. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. Regarding exams, it is clear now. Mostly it will be on September 24th. It is not of objective type. Mostly normal exam pattern will be given. That is one essay question, five short answer questions, and five very short answer questions for 40 marks. Topics are whatever the topics we covered after first internal till September 20th. Okay, I'm closing the session. Thank you.